Rex, El Jefe, Mr. Glass Half Full, the revival.
Welcome back to New York Revival, where it's not just sports and entertainment, it's fantasy football too. We got a special show today, a little afternoon session. We got a special guest. I'm pumped up. Eli's got the day off because when you book Kay Adams, you can pretty much do whatever the hell you want. So he took the day off, well deserved. Appreciate you guys carrying the torch while I was out last week. You guys did an awesome job. I was still peeking on you. Don't worry. I saw you working out here.
You can't help yourself, can you? You're on Disney having a good time with your family, and you had to get a little taste, didn't you?
I did.
Of the revival.
I did, of course.
So
we're here to talk about fantasy football today. Me and Spiro are in a league together, right? 10-team PPR redraft league. So today we're going to be talking PPR. Because if you're not doing PPR, I mean, what are you doing exactly?
No, you're doing it
right. Why limit the fun? But Spiro's drafting 4th. I'm drafting 6th. So whatever you do has major implications on me.
I love that because you always feel like, tell me what you're going to do because I'm not going to be able to draft in front of you.
I can't control. I did say that to you too when we were.
It happens all the time.
We were at Topgolf. I'm like, what are you doing at 4, bro? Just tell me what you're doing at 4 so I could start planning and over mock drafting. But instead of me and Spiro just talking about this, we thought let's bring in a very, very special guest.
Awesome.
Right? He is the host and creator of No Expert Fantasy Football. You can find him on Twitter and YouTube at No Expert FF. It's Joe Orico. Come on, buddy.
Let's go.
Sir.
Let's go.
Joe.
Let's go. Thank you guys. Thank you for having me today. Thanks for the intro. And let's get after it. It's going to be a good one.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for being here. I like having other content creators on all the time, especially fantasy football, because I'm a big mock drafter. I know one of the things are you a ranker for Fantasy Pros? Is that in your profile, or did I make that up?
Yeah, so Fantasy Pros, they got about anywhere from 100 to 200 people who do their consensus expert rankings. Ironically enough, even though I named my channel No Expert Fantasy Football, I'm an expert for them. I do rankings for them. They're updated weekly. So for my subscribers, I post my rankings for them, and then they get uploaded to Fantasy Pros. And it's like when you go on Fantasy Pros, you see their rankings. Mine are 1/200th of them, if you will. And sometimes, I do some featured articles for them over there. We have one coming out tomorrow on some bust picks. Maybe we'll talk about some today. But yeah, that's it.
That's great, man. And I want to ask you, how did Joe get into this fantasy life that you are in now currently? Where did you start? How'd you get yourself off the ground there?
Yeah. Well, honestly, probably similar to you guys. You love the Giants. I love fantasy football. So I made a channel about it, started making content about fantasy. Came from my love of winning my leagues, doing well, and I was just putting in hours and hours trying to do that. I was like, let me just post this, see what happens. And here we are now, hence the name No Expert Fantasy Football. I don't have a degree in fantasy football, if you will, but I guess we'll get there at some point.
Hey, man, with 28,000 followers, you're doing something right. Somebody's paying attention to what's going on in Joe.
I appreciate it.
How long have you been doing this, Joe?
Just over a year and a half now. So as I mentioned to you guys, I'm moving into a new apartment this weekend. So in the past year and a half, I've moved like twice, but always just trying to every day, just put something out, even if it's not your best. You got to be happy you showed up and did it. And then when it is your best, it's all worth it. So that's it. You got to love the grind. You got to love the good days and bad days. And realistically, I like fantasy so much that it doesn't feel like work, and that's the goal. I'm sure you guys share the same sentiments, but.
Labor of love. That's what it's about.
Oh yeah. And you do better at it when you like it. You know what I mean? So
of course. It's why I'm trying to get rid of my day job.
Yep.
I like how you baked in No Expert to your name, because does that help people to not get mad at you?
I actually get that question a lot, and I thought that I would use it more as a defense, like when people are screaming at me online. But honestly, it's all in good fun. Some people just say it themselves, like they'll reply to a comment saying I'm crazy and go, dude, he literally look at his username. Like it's not that deep. It's not that deep, brother. Yeah,
he put it out there. He's not an expert.
Yeah.
But for anybody getting ready for their drafts and stuff, I just put his handle at the bottom there. Make sure you give Joe a follow. A year
Thanks,
and a
guys.
half, and you have 28,000 followers. Like, fuck off, dude. I mean, really.
My
Yeah,
bad,
doing
guys.
something good, bro. Come on. That's awesome.
I appreciate you.
So I listened to like I started digging into your channel once we had you as a guest. You do some awesome stuff, and whenever I listen to like fantasy on Sirius or anything like that, it seems like the content creators are in a draft like every day. So I don't know how you can possibly manage that many leagues, but how many are you in?
So personally, I'll say this: I'm in about this year like 6, but there's one that I really, really care about. I won it last year, which is awesome, because that was really the first year where my stuff started to go pretty viral online and get some following. So you get some slack from your boys if you don't win it, basically.
Yes.
So I ended up winning that, but I do manage, about 6, and then a lot of the drafts going on now are these best ball drafts over on Underdog, where you kind of draft and don't manage your team. That's great, that's for some people. Not my favorite, honestly. I like to manage my team. I like the trade talks. I like the shit talking a little bit. So if I may,
But you can curse all you want. But I like the anxiety of those start sit decisions on Sunday morning that drive you crazy. I mean, that's like the fun of it. That's why you do it.
Yeah.
And then I like talking shit to the guys that forget the guys that are getting benched or not playing and being like, you're not on top of your shit. You're an idiot. So I love getting them shit for that.
So the league that means the most to you, is that because it's the biggest money league or just because of the people that are in it?
Oh, just the people that are in it. I mean, we've been doing it for like 10 years, ever since we were just running around middle school, and it just means a ton. So it's super competitive. I mean, we all live in different places now, but we keep coming back to it every year. The chat never dies, is the old saying. So like middle of March, we're talking fantasy in there some way or another. I'll just remind them I have a ring, for example. But yeah, no, it's great. It's just all about the people, to be honest.
Love it. Well, yeah, for me, it's a little bit about people, but a little bit about the pay-in. That makes it a little bit bigger of a deal to me.
We make some bread too. We make some bread.
Yes,
absolutely.
All right. Go ahead, Jeff.
You're good. Go for it.
Yeah. So I want to ask you this, Joe.
Let's get into it. Let's get dirty.
Let's get into some real dirty stuff here. All right. Your draft strategy, and I hate being in your war room and everything like that, but do you tinker with it year to year? Does it generally stay the same? How does it go for you year to year?
No, yeah. I mean, it's different every year. There's a lot of ways to approach this, right? I will say from year to year, once you start looking at the board and you start finding values and players you like, over the course of the summer until basically this weekend coming up, that's your time to really fine tune it. And it's just fine tuning. So what I mean by that is, for example, like I have like 15 players this year who could genuinely be the best player in fantasy. I think anybody from, Christian McCaffrey and Justin Jefferson, all the way down to like Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson, Saquon Barkley, who are going 13th, 15th, 14th overall, right? So for me, what that means is I think that in rounds 1 and 2, I've found this year, get an elite running back, get an elite wide receiver. We'll talk about my favorite combo in a little bit. And then as you move farther down, there's a lot of good value at the tight end position this year. I'm sure we'll talk about Waller in a bit. But even some guys below him, Dallas Goedert, for example, I love grabbing him. And then it's also just really easy to grab a good QB this year, like Trevor Lawrence or better. So last year, top 3 quarterbacks on average scored 6 more fantasy points than top 3 wide receivers, top 3 running backs. So if you can get a guy at the QB position that you think is going to finish top 3 there, and in my opinion is Trevor Lawrence or better, that's a big advantage, and you can grab him in the 5th. So I love doing that. So for me this year, what I've narrowed it down to, as I said, stud running back, stud wide receiver, and I do want like a pretty good quarterback and a pretty good tight end. I know that sounds super generic, but there's some years where you're like, oh geez, it's Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce, or no tight end. And there's some years where it's like, oh geez, no point in drafting these QBs when I can get Geno Smith, in the 11th. But I do find value there, and I find that they're easy to draft. So that's kind of what I go into, with this year at least.
You kind of led me right into my next question. So perfect segue. But is Trevor Lawrence, is that the fall off point? Like above him, Justin Fields, you got the rushing upside, and then the obvious ones, Herbert, Mahomes, obviously, Lamar Jackson. Like, is that the fall off? Is Trevor Lawrence as low as you want to go for your team?
Yeah, that's for me personally. So I'll just break down the QB position like this, and keep in mind, you want a guy who can finish top 3. There's a really those top 3 QBs at the end of the year, you look at them, you're like, damn, they were really much better than literally any other player. And I think the highest probability of guys to do that, it really ends with Lawrence. I mean, if we get a true Trevor Lawrence breakout with Calvin Ridley, with ETN in his 2nd/3rd year, with Christian Kirk back, Evan Ingram, another year under Doug Peterson, he's going to finish probably in that top 4. We saw Peterson do that with Wentz for the Eagles on a points per game basis on that MVP Super Bowl season, right? And ahead of Lawrence, the 3 guys, Fields, Herbert, Lamar, that's the next group of 3. Take your pick. Yeah. I would say Herbert's probably the safest. I'd say Fields probably, maybe, Lamar have the highest ceiling. But again, a little riskier. I think Burrow's my locked-in number 4. And then any of the big 3, Hurts, Allen, Mahomes, in order for me. You can't go wrong. And to answer your question officially, yes, I do see a fall off after those top 8 guys. And actually, in that next tier, right, I'm skipping out on Deshaun. We ain't drafting Dak around here. Skipping Rodgers. And the guy I like, because he goes a little later than like Dak and Deshaun, is Daniel Jones. So
yeah,
you may as well touch on Daniel Jones while we're here, right?
Yeah, right.
Like he was a guy that probably won some leagues last year. He has that rushing upside. He finished really strong. But I'm with you. Like, it's not a guy that you necessarily trust and you could just lock and load him starter every single week and not worry about it. How do you view Daniel Jones fantasy-wise for this season?
Yeah, well, he is my middle round QB target. Like, if I miss out, for example, on a tight end, Dallas Goedert better, right? So I miss out on Waller, I miss out on Kittle, Kelsey, Andrew, I miss out on one of those guys. I want Pat Freiermuth. Daniel Jones is my Pat Freiermuth of the QB position. Once those guys are off the board, I want DJ because he's going to rush for probably over 600 yards. Ran for over 700 last year. And I'm sure you guys watched the preseason game. I was getting like flashbacks here from I don't know what, prime Super Bowl Eli, something, 8 of 9 touchdown to Bellinger. Yeah. That was crazy. And I want that. And, I guess it's a little risky, but again, QB9 last year, a lot of people don't know that. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, this could be the year. Daniel Jones, top 10 QB. He already did that. You just weren't watching. Yeah. So I love it. And it really, in fantasy, you got to target the rushing upside with QBs. You can get a guy that's going to rush for probably, like I said, over 600, definitely over 500 in the mid rounds. Absolutely.
Unless you have a Mahomes who's going to throw for 40.
Yeah. Right.
You got to sneak in some rushing touchdowns here and there. It's just, it's pure gold.
Yep.
And I want to ask about that because, so you talked about Herbert and kind of combine them with Lamar and the Fields. The rushing upside of those two, the latter two, does that even technically makes that floor higher, in my opinion, right? Like, does that make him a little bit higher than Herbert, who doesn't really offer much there in the rushing department?
Sure, I would say so, but I would say the bottom floor is much lower for those guys, the rushers, because I feel like it's injury. Whereas I can say pretty confidently, you try not to predict injuries, you try not to even really comment on it, but I would say Herbert's injury risk is just much lower, just because he's not running. Whereas with Lamar, with Fields, I mean, we've seen them the last 2 years miss games, miss a handful of games. Whereas Herbert, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe has missed one. And we saw Herbert. We saw Herbert. He already finished the top 3 QB, like his second year, so he can do it. And again, it's just balancing. If Lamar plays 17, gets back to his rushing, he's going to finish ahead of Herbert. So just it's always balancing. And when you're building your team to, are you targeting Ravens later? Are you targeting Chargers, for example? Just a million things to consider. But
that's fair. Okay, since we are a Giant show, we asked you about Jones already, so we want to go to another big name here. Where do you slot Waller right now in terms of your tight ends, and what round do you look to draft?
I need him.
Yeah, I just need that big guy on my team.
No, absolutely. And I touched on that preseason game. I what was it, like 5 straight targets? I mean, I'm getting flashbacks to 2020, 2019. 10 targets a drive to Darren Waller in Oakland or Las Vegas, whatever it is nowadays.
But it was Oakland at the time.
Okay, good. All right, good to know. So Waller's 30. A lot of people put a death nail in tight ends for that. Travis Kelce has gone ahead and dispelled that. Not everyone's Travis Kelce, but Waller is pretty damn close. Right now, Waller's going off the board, tight end 6, I believe. So you got Kelsey, Andrews, Hawkinson, Kittle, Pitts, Waller.
Pitts.
Yeah, none of that. No, we can't be doing that. But I mean, I've talked about Waller a lot all summer with Dallas Goedert. Those two guys are it. I want one of them every single draft. I have Goddard as my tight end 4. I have Waller as my tight end 3. And they're not going there in drafts. We just talked about, Kittle, Pitts, Hawkinson, whatever. Why spend up on them when Waller, Goddard, and we'll talk about Waller specifically, are most likely going to finish right next to them, possibly ahead of them. I think Waller's one of 3 tight ends, Kelsey, Andrews, and him, that could lead their team in targets. It's so valuable at the tight end position. Literally no other tight end is doing that. Hawkinson, Kittle, Pitts, certainly nobody below that. So I love him.
Wide receiver 1. He's wide receiver 1. Like that's it. That's not even TE 1.
Yep.
That's a good thing.
The preseason game, like we went to a couple practices this year because we heard from beat reporters that he was just getting targeted left and right. And it's absolutely true. Like red zone, he's the first look every time. And like from a Giants perspective, it's great because it is going to open up for some Bellinger sneaky touchdowns because he's just going to be the forgotten man as our tight end too. But he's like a hard guy to roster in fantasy. You have no idea when his games are going to come. There's going to be 3 or 4 games where he goes for double digits easily, but no idea to predict when that's going to happen. But Waller is that guy. Like he is the number 1 wide receiver. Like, what would you consider a reach for Waller? If you get your stud running back and wide receiver in the first 2 rounds, do you have any problem with grabbing him in the 3rd and just locking up your tight end position?
I do think the 3rd is a little early, but I would say, early 4th, depending on, which isn't too far from late 3rd. Yeah, it really just depends on your roster. So like say you grab, I don't know, random example, like Josh Allen in the 3rd round. I'm probably not looking for Waller in the 4th, right? Like with the onesie positions, they're called in the community of QB and tight end where you only have one. It's a pretty good strategy in general to draft one really good one if you're going to go that direction. So if I were to grab Waller in the 4th, early 4th, his ADP is 67 right now, which is after the 5th. That's probably, it's like middle 6th.
Yeah, most mock drafts, I've seen him in the 5th. Like once the 5th round comes around, I start to look for him.
Right. If you want to go get him on the 4th, wait a little bit on QB, I think that's a really good strategy because honestly, you're waiting on QB a little bit. Daniel Jones is going to be sitting there in the 7th. Right. So, yep.
What do you call that? See, there's a lot of people say it's a little rub and tug. What do you call the QB to wide receiver / tight end combo? Commonly referred to in the community as a stack. And it really just gives you that huge play ability, and it just makes fantasy more fun. Like if you're down 40 points, here comes the witching hour, Daniel Jones, Darren Waller. I mean, you got life. True.
So.
Some people are crazy. Daniel Jones, 1st overall. You do what you got to do. But real big shout out to our girl Precious.
Hey, Precious. We don't have a bell for you right now. That's Eli's job, but
she needs her own bell. We need a Precious bell because she's the best supporter. And I assume that sticker is for Joe. I'll just assume that's
thanks.
So I was watching your show earlier today on everybody's got my guys. And I'm becoming more and more buying into that because chances, if you're in a 10-team league, 10% chance you're going to win that league, right? 1 out of 10. Would you rather go down by playing it safe or go down by you picked your guys? Winning would be that much sweeter if you went and got your people and you had a good episode on the running back position and your guy looked like it's Jahmyr Gibbs. So tell us about why he is your guy for this year.
Oh, yeah. So, when you look at Jahmyr Gibbs, let's just start by saying rookie running backs are always a good bet to make, just from a health perspective. When you look at the top-end running backs, CMC, unfortunately Saquon, Eckler, Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, guys miss games all the time. And with age comes injury sometimes. So right off the bat, if you're going for low risk, rookie running backs are a good play. Guess what? They also have really, really high ceiling. So when you look at running backs drafted with a top 15 pick that played their age 21 season, so that would be Gibbs this year as well as Bijan. These guys are just guaranteed studs. I knock on wood somewhere, but top 12 fantasy running backs their rookie season. And then Gibbs to the Lions, genuinely probably the number one running back destination in the league. They led the league in expected fantasy points at the running back position last year. Guy by the name of Jamal Williams, 17 rushing touchdowns, led the league. That's not going to be Gibbs's role, but Dan Campbell, head coach of the Lions, was an offensive assistant for the Saints in 2017. In 2017, rookie year, Alvin Kamara, RB3, also 21 years old. And then Mark Ingram, RB6, the same year. So it's literally Monty and Gibbs. You know, they are the reincarnation, in my opinion, of those dudes. Campbell has drawn those direct comparisons. And everything points to that happening. They only have 2 running backs on the roster as of yesterday, those 2 guys. So
True. See, this is the kind of insight you get only from the not expert.
I got you.
So does that concern you at all, though, at the same time? Because last year, I wound up going like Barkley Swift in rounds. I was like I think I was the 10 spot, and I just doubled up on running backs because that was a common strategy last year. To your point, it changes every year a little bit. But I got burnt by Swift last year, and part of that was injury, but he just gave up so many goal line carries. Like, this is that same offense. Are you concerned that the ceiling for Gibbs might be capped a little bit because of that?
You know, I get asked that question a lot. My first thing I'll say is with Swift, you might not have noticed it because you didn't enjoy the experience, but finished PPR RB21. And in terms of fantasy points per touch amongst top 24 running backs last year, he actually ranked second. Breece Hall only had more. He had over 1 fantasy point per touch. So if you project him to touch the ball 15 times, he's going to, 15 fantasy points. So Swift from a per touch basis was actually really good. He'd never put it together over the course of a full season, over the course of many full games, to be honest. So what did the Lions do? Traded him and drafted a running back 12th overall. Like, you're not going to watch David Monty dominate these games, catch passes. Like, when you have your 12th overall pick on the bench, fans are going to be like, what's going on? The owner's going to be like, what's going on? So no, I'm not too worried about it. I would argue that if Swift put together 17 full games, RB21 in only 14. So if he did put together those 17 games, he probably would have finished pretty solid. That's my opinion, and I do understand that worry though. That's definitely legitimate. But again, I think the draft capital, and I'm not a big draft capital / dynasty guy, right? But it just makes so much sense.
And he's relatively cheap for that ceiling, though, right? Is he going like second, third round?
Yeah, so I've seen him go early second, like middle second round. I think that's a little rich. At that point, you're taking him over like Waddle and some really, really good wide receivers. But as soon as I put out a tweet the other day, as soon as Tony Pollard is off the board, we're talking Gibbs, Etienne, Ramadre, Najee Harris, that crew. Just take your pick.
You love ETN too. I watched
my boy.
Show.
That's my boy.
You're a big Jaguars guy, seems like. You're riding hard for Jacksonville right now.
Dude, I just think they're going to be so good.
I want to talk about them because I do have something on that later. All right, Spiro, let's play a game.
Yeah. Well, let's get a little. We are a New York podcast here, so I want to throw some New York rapid fire questions at you.
Oh yeah.
Gonna be quick answer.
Yep.
But I'll shoot some off on you. Daniel Jones or Aaron Rodgers?
Daniel Jones, 100% of the time. The only, I'm not even going to say. Even if I got Garrett Wilson on my lineup, DJ.
I like it.
And this was a fantasy question. Okay.
Oh yeah.
It's a fantasy question. But stop the presses, everybody. Fantasy.
Yep. Give me DJ.
It.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So this one's a convoluted question. It's a two-parter.
Sure.
Who would you consider the wide receiver one for the Giants? Isaiah Hodgins, Slayton, or Paris Campbell in this case?
So for fantasy football purposes, if I want a ceiling, I'm going to take Paris Campbell. And I do want a ceiling because likely if I'm drafting a Giants receiver, it's for my bench. On my bench, I want ceiling. I don't need 9 points every week from Darius Slayton. Right. Sometimes that's convenient during bye weeks, but
that's what Adam Thielen's for.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. I view them pretty similarly, right? But if Campbell hits his ceiling, is the true wide receiver one, right? If can compete with Waller for targets. I mean, he's been really good in spurts before. Yes. Big talent, similar to Swift, to be honest. So give me Campbell.
Okay. And in that same breath, are you taking a Campbell or a Lazard in that case? A little Jets to Giants thing. Lazard in arguably a better passing offense. but the wide receiver 2 in that scenario.
Yeah, in that one, boys, we're gonna go with Lazard. Now, I will say Lazard is massively undervalued. Rodgers handpicked him to come over to New York and play the exact same role he played in Green Bay. And again, another guy who's always banged up, hasn't put it together over the course of a full season, but we've seen 5-6 week spurts where he is a top 15 guy. I think he still has that. The Jets' schedule this season to begin is really hard. So Rodgers is going to be relying on a dude like Lazard early and often, in my opinion. So I like him late. For sure.
Not to mention that as long as Garrett Wilson is out there, Lazard will never see the cornerback one.
Yeah, that's true. Exactly.
All right, one last New York versus New York question.
Yeah.
Saquon or Garrett Wilson?
So Saquon is my running back 2 this year. And if given the chance, I'm taking Saquon. Now, I do want to say my preferred answer is both. And I spoke about it a little bit in the beginning with my strategy, but if I got a late pick, anywhere, 7 or later, it's Saquon, and then it's Garrett Wilson in the second. And I'm like, I'm chilling. I'm posted up. I really like that. Saquon, when healthy, weeks 1 through 10, you could say, number 1 RB, led the league in high value touches. So touches inside the opponent's 10 plus receptions. Saquon Barkley.
Right. Hey, I love that.
Love it. Let's get to the chat for a quick question here, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Let's talk Colts, because Richardson is very interesting. But how do you view Pittman, who is being super undervalued, I feel like right now? Maybe people just are not sure what this is going to turn into, this Colts offense. But would you be comfortable with Pittman as a wide receiver 2? How do you see his outlook for this year? Yeah,
I don't mind Pittman as a 2. Honestly, I've built a couple teams where I've drafted 3 straight running backs, trying something different, then a QB, then a tight end, and there's my wide receiver 1. It's Pittman. He's in that Mike Evans, Godwin, Deontay Johnson. I think he's criminally underrated. He's really good at football. So anytime you see, right, I know it's a blanket statement, but this guy's the wide receiver 1 of his offense. He's really good at football. He's big as hell. It doesn't have to be that complicated. And everyone's off Pittman. He totally burned you last year going as a wide receiver 11. Didn't get anywhere close to that. But if Richardson's going to have a go-to target, it's going to be Pittman. I will say this. It's probably going to be ugly in the beginning, at least for the first month. So don't expect much. I sense a buy low target, once we're about a quarter through the year.
And what about Pittman being a big garbage time touchdown guy? Because I feel like Colts are going to be down big in many games. 3 touchdowns to everybody in the fourth quarter, right?
Yeah, I mean, for example, with Brandon Cooks on the Texans, you always saw that. You'd be checking your phone, you're like, Brandon Cooks, 8 points, 28 points, at 3:30 p.m. Yeah. Exactly. So you're going to get that. And again, it's pretty rare you can just draft a really good wide receiver who's the wide receiver 1, right. So take advantage of that. I don't mind it as a 2 at all, especially if your 1 is a good floor. So.
And with where Pittman is being drafted, you could probably grab him as your 3.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And then you're a lot more comfortable with it, and you can wait for the upside. Go ahead, Spee.
I got another good question here from TX Giants fan. Older wide receivers, talking about Michael Thomas or OBJ. Who are you taking a risk on at that point?
At that point,
don't pander to us New York guys here.
Well, I am going to. I would lean with Odell Beckham Jr. I think the path to him being the wide receiver 1 there is clearer than Michael Thomas's. If we get a full strength Michael Thomas, which is very unlikely, I would argue Olave's still the guy. And whereas OBJ is fully healthy, they don't make him like OBJ. And obviously Zay Flowers there, but a very different skill set than Beckham, right? Flowers a little closer to the line of scrimmage. Beckham's down the field, go up and get it type of thing. And I don't see Bateman factoring in too much. So while it may seem like the Ravens have a bit more of a crowded room, if I'm targeting one of those guys, I am doing OBJ there.
I like that.
Thanks, man. If you don't mind, I'm going to ask a selfish question here because I'm drafting at the 6th spot. Selfish. Spiro's at 4. And he kind of told me what he might do right there. But there's
maybe I didn't.
You got to assume Jefferson and Chase are gone. CMC will be gone. Mm-hmm. And then that's where it gets interesting, right? Some combination of Eckler. I'm not really in on Kupp that much this year, in terms of top 6. So maybe if I have the choice between Tyreek Hill or Kelsey or somebody like that, talk to me about what I do at 6, because it feels like this year more than any others, it kind of feels like a weird spot to be in. You'd almost rather be on the bookends of a 10-team draft.
No, absolutely. I will say though, maybe I could change your mind a little bit. I like Cup this year. Real quick, of the play, all players in fantasy the last 2 seasons, the most PPR points per game, any position. So we're talking Mahomes, Allen, Hurt. It's Cooper Kupp. Now, granted, he hasn't played every game, right? I get it. Stafford, the elbow, this, that, but maybe take a second look. I will say, not too early for Saquon, and I am targeting really at the 106. I think Bijan's a steal.
Yeah.
Bijan, Saquon, Kupp, and then, Hill, if you're a little afraid of Kupp, if you want to go wide receiver, go with Hill. So I do like Hill there because the middle second round running backs are a bit stronger than the wide receivers. Like you might take a running back and get stuck with Waddle as your one, which is cool. I have that in my league right now, but it's like, do you want that or do you want Hill and Pollard, for example? Probably the latter.
I love Pollard in the
right.
second round.
Right. So I will say this, you can't go wrong. Don't sweat it. If you're going to go wide receiver, you're a little off Cup. Hill is awesome. And then Bijan, Saquon, don't be afraid to hit the draft button.
Talk to me about Kelsey at that spot.
So I'm a little off Kelsey. I don't want to be the guy who's like, I'm never, I just told you I'm not afraid of Cup, right? So it's like, but I'm a little afraid of Kelsey. I mean, Kelsey was great because we were drafting him late first, high second, sometimes mid second. You're like, damn, this dude just won me the league. He is the oldest he's ever been, obviously, and he's the most expensive he's ever been. It's just like kind of a risky combo, if you will. And again, I just feel like there's a lot of value at tight end. Like, I'll say it, why draft Kelsey in the first instead of Waller in the fourth plus 3 amazing players instead of him? Right? True, I mean, if I'm lining up my fantasy team, Hefe's got Waller, Mr. Glass Half Full's got Kelsey. I'm like, okay, let's see who wins. You know what I mean? Like, I want a tight end I can put out there to compete against Kelsey. I value that a little bit more than having the man himself.
Gotcha. I like that.
Yeah.
Sound reasoning. I was that guy last year. I thought Kelsey might have hit that cliff, and then I ended up with in my face.
Yeah, to be fair, said the same thing last year, but I'm I mean, if you want to talk risk, right? I think Kelsey's risky. I think Kupp, even though I'm a little, not as worried about him, is risky. Hill, Bijan, Saquon, if you want to play it safe, probably one of those dudes.
And real quick, before we get off this, the 2 tight end combo in the starting lineup, yay or nay?
I'm nay.
Okay. Yep. Fair enough.
Oh, there it is. I'm trying to get Kelsey involved.
I saw him there, and
I was Waller, and then you have an elite backup tight end.
Yeah, people made fun of me for doing it a couple of years, and I swore by it because the big end, the high end guys against 2 high end guys, they're good for some points.
It's definitely, honestly, I'll be honest, I haven't looked much into it, but I could see a world where you got 2 of the top 5 tight ends, your league doesn't. But again, if you had 2 tight end positions, then that would be really an advantage. Whereas, you could probably find a receiver that can go compete with Waller. You know what I mean?
Fair.
And the downside, if you take Kelsey at that 6th spot, is that you're getting your first running back or wide receiver in the 3rd round. Then
exactly, and who is it at that point?
Yeah.
It kind of locks you into a guy. Obviously, we talked about Gibbs and ETN. I love them. They're literally my 2 favorite players to draft. I don't love them as my RB1, though, just because they're a little unproven. So, if I'm going for my RB1 in that range, I do prefer a Najee or a Madre, just because the floor is higher at the RB1. For the RB2, let me load up on Brees, ETN, Gibbs, for example. But
love it, man.
Spirit, you want to have some more fun here?
I got some. Again, a little off the beaten path questions for you.
Yeah, let's go.
So we're not going to talk fantasy here. I'm going to throw you for a loop here. I didn't give you these in the pregame, so I'm throwing. I want to know more about the show here.
No notes.
I want to know about so your favorite wedding drink at an open bar. What is it, Joe?
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Because it's free.
So we're at a wedding.
Yes.
Yes.
At a wedding.
See, that's huge.
It matters.
Honestly, beginning of the night, am I getting shade for grabbing a Red Bull vodka off the bat?
Hey,
Probably not, right?
Get you hyped up. I like it.
Get ready for the dance floor, finish it up with a couple of beers later. That's what I'm looking to do. My girlfriend's yelling at me. She's Red Bull vodka.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Because we all change. We all change after that RBV.
Oh,
and you know
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Mine is martini for the record. I almost never order it anytime I'm out. But at a wedding, it's like it kind of just punches you right in the face. No, who's got room for beer? You're eating nonstop.
Right.
Yep.
Can't go
Like
beer.
the beer is for later when you're like on cruise control. You're trying to like land.
Exactly.
You're trying to land safely. But
Yeah,
keep it
yeah,
going.
yeah.
Spiro, what's yours?
I'm a gin and tonic guy, man. I don't know what it's only. I'm not a gin guy unless it's an open bar at a wedding. It's really freaking weird. I turned into the gin Spiro. There's a different guy. There's a different alternate personality.
I've never met Gin Spiro.
Yeah,
but I look forward to it.
He rips up the dance floor. You may get to meet him at some point soon, but I'll let you know.
I'll make sure to share it with her, so she'll think that's funny.
Yes, that's great. Tequila. So that's the go-to. That's a fair go-to. All right, I gotta throw another one here.
Yeah.
Favorite football movie in Joe's life? What do you like?
Oh, dude. I mean, I gotta think real quick, but gotta be Remember the Titans. It just, and I know it's a basic answer, but it's just like I see that on. It's very rare I see that on TV. I'm looking for something to watch, and it's not going on. And in about an hour and a half, I'm running through my wall. So that's yeah, I love it. Yeah, a couple RBVs later, yeah.
Awesome. All right, and last one here. Favorite football team before fantasy, Joe. Who was your favorite football team? I know you can't really do that much anymore.
Yeah. So again, I tell everyone my favorite team is my fantasy team, but this purchase actually this really was not a good one 2 years ago. So we'll get that out of here.
Okay.
But the Jets are my favorite team. And like I said, from Jersey. So my dad, pacing back and forth in the living room during the Chad Pennington days. I'll never forget that.
I love it. Good stuff, man. We want to get to know Joe a little better. Appreciate you for that. F.A., you're up.
He's a Jersey guy. Gotta like it. We wanted him on before we even knew that. So
it was meant to be.
Yep.
There are two guys, two wide receivers that I just feel it in my plums. They're just gonna have huge years, but they're above like the obvious top tier guys. Tell me if I'm crazy or if I'm spot on about these two receivers, DJ Moore, Calvin Ridley. I think they're both gonna have possibly career years this year.
Oh, no, absolutely. I'll start with Ridley, keep the Jaguars train rolling. I believe it was 2020 with Matt Ryan. I'm not sure Ridley played every game, but in fantasy points per game, he was wide receiver 4. An absolute monster that year. And Trevor Lawrence last year had better completion percentage, passer rating, touchdown rate than Matt Ryan in 2020. And Lawrence was wide receiver 4 in points per game. So quite literally, the ceiling is wide receiver 1, in my opinion. I will say this, beautiful. The ceiling is as high as it comes, right? Especially in that range of the draft. I mean, you're looking at guys maybe like Debo who could go do it. But it is a little risky he hasn't played in so long. It's a little overrated. But I do like Ridley kind of late 3rd, early 4th, as opposed to like late 2nd I've seen him go. And then with DJ Moore is one of those guys we're going to look back on come week 6 and be like, damn, he was so easy to draft. And I didn't.
It.
Yep. Yeah, we overthought it. Yeah. And again, I know it's an easy comparison to go to, but it's screaming Stephon Diggs joins Josh Allen. We were drafting Stephon Diggs not very high before he went to the Bills. And look at us now, late 1st round. And if you told me that next year, DJ Moore, top 15 pick, I really wouldn't be surprised just because how young he is, how young Justin Fields is. I know they don't pass a lot, but it's only going up. Bottom of the league in pass yards last year. It's only going up. Fields is only getting better. So it's I feel like we're drafting that as floor. I agree with you.
That would be an absolutely beautiful stack, too, because you get the rushing upside anytime he tucks it. And then if he throws it, it's going to DJ Moore most of the time. So that's a really nice stack. And I'm with you on Ridley. I think it's overrated that he took a year off. His body's probably 100% healthy. All reports are that he's flying around and he looks unguardable, which, I've heard that about Darren Waller. They don't throw that word around too often. But good stuff. Appreciate that. My other question Is Alexander Madison, taking over Dalvin Cook's role? Is that fool's gold, or can he actually be that dude?
So the popular answer in the community is that it's fool's gold, and I've learned kind of in at least the last year, but in my whole fantasy career, basically even as a player, whenever everyone thinks something is 100% correct, you got to take a second look. Like, what is the case against Alexander Madison? The case against him is on a per touch basis, his advanced rushing stats are not great. Maybe that's because 80% of his touches, he's just getting thrown in when Cook needs a break. Like, he's not loose. He's not, and I know it's a narrative based thing. I get it, but give the guy a break, right? I mean, every single time that Madison has played 50% or more of snaps, it's not even a lot. He's scored over 16 fantasy points, which is a crazy stat to me. And it's like, you guys remember, like, every year, Cook's down, Madison, top priority. Give me And guess what he does? Produces for you.
It seemed like 20 points anytime he had to step in. He was an elite handcuff.
Right. And there's also the argument like, nobody was saying Madison should be playing more when Dalvin Cook was there. So what do we think he's going to be good? Well, of course we weren't, because we all had Dalvin Cook. And also, it's an argument for Madison, the fact that even if Cook wasn't doing great, they left him in there. Coaching staff loves Madison. They just signed Myles Gaskin today, which means they're probably not going to go get Kareem Hunt, Leonard Fournette. So I like Madison, and a lot of people don't. But, I not a guy I'm like, give me him. But if he's there, I'm snagging him.
This is a going against the grain pick, it sounds like.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yep.
All right, very nice. All right, so listen, I got another thing here for you. Again, not so much a player question, but last place punishments. Do you believe in this? And what's the best one that you've heard of, that you know of?
Oh, man, I definitely believe in it. There's a fine line of making people not quit the league, but again, that's a personal issue.
Right.
We lost Hefe there?
He'll be back.
Okay, cool. So in my league, we do a beer mile, and it's not much fun. Yeah, for the loser, that is. But around the track, one beer every lap. Oh, you guys switch sides. That's crazy. You're back. All right. I like that one. That's a little much, but some good ones like that are less intense. Going out to eat with like a big stuffed animal and just sitting there. Yeah. That's a good one. There's a ton of good ones. Any public humiliation, getting up in the middle of a restaurant and singing a song. Love that type of shit. Yeah, love it.
All right, good. So you believe it. You're a firm believer.
You gotta be, or else people don't try. Of course.
Right, and that's the worst. The important matchups later in the season, you got guys quitting, not setting their lineups. You gotta have something.
Stinks.
You're talking about punishment. Sorry, I
yes.
decided to reboot my computer real quick. I think the best one I saw, and maybe this is what you were just referring to, is the league that makes you go on a date with a blow-up doll at like a fancy restaurant.
Pretty crazy. It's pretty wild stuff. It's actually funny. There's this viral video going around of the dude playing the flute in like the middle of Boston until he raises $20 and he has a sign. He's like, "I suck at fantasy." Right? I think that I'm all for the public humiliation. That's not too in your face, but
right. We got a good question here.
My leagues are friendly.
Oh yeah. You're a little too friendly, if you ask me.
The loser has to do a power hour at the next year's draft. So an hour before the draft, he's got to start with a very solid buzz. But some guys do it with them for fun. It's not that bad. So
yeah.
All right, so we got a question here, a pretty good one. Rashad White or Cam Akers? A little bit like you're down the ladder RBs here. Or what are you thinking?
Yeah, again, these guys go right next to Madison, and it's a tough group of running backs to decipher. I will say if you're in a PPR league, I do lean White a little bit, but again, if you took Akers, I'm not going to blame you. Last 6 weeks of last season, top 5 running back, Cam Akers. He proved it, put on a ton of muscle, they're saying, this offseason. I've seen the pictures myself. But on a serious note, I do think the Rams offense a little better. I believe in Stafford. I believe in Kupp. And with that being said, we've seen McVay have a bell cow before. And if it's Akers, I mean, that's really valuable. I'll also say don't sweat it too much. Maybe if you have Kupp on your team, don't draft Akers, right? So there are ways to break the tie. I'll also say I like them both. So.
While you just kind of touched on it, are you against that in general, like having a running back receiver on the same team in your lineup?
It really depends on the player. The idea of stacking is to get double the points when something cool happens.
Right.
So it's kind of like, for example, in my recent draft, I kept ETN as my keeper, and I'm staring down Ridley and Debo. I went with Debo because what if they go down the field and the touchdown goes to Zay Jones? I'm like, damn, And if it goes to Ridley, I'm also like, damn. And if it goes to ETN, I'm like, damn. So I don't love that. Again, if it's a tight end, a wide receiver, and a QB, that's a little different. The second you mix the RB in there, I do try to avoid it. Just use it as a tiebreaker.
That's fair.
That's very fair.
Yeah.
What else? You got anything important you want to ask? Because Joe, we've kept him for way too long. He's already
no, I'm good, boys. I'm here all day. Here all day.
Joe, while we've got the people in here, why don't you tell them where they can find you and anything that you're working on as we get ready for this NFL season?
Appreciate it. Yeah. So Twitter really is my website, at NoExpertFF. All my content's there. From there, you can find my YouTube channel, No Expert Fantasy Football. All my articles, everything you need is there. Cool series I'm doing on YouTube is Hero RB to Glory. Basically, drafted one running back in this draft, and we're going to try to go win the league against 11 of my subscribers. So should be a fun thing. I wanted Saquon to be my guy, but McCaffrey fell to me, so I'm like, can't do it.
Not that bad.
Yeah, so if you want to see how I manage my teams, like trading, waivers, start sits, it's going to be a good way to do it, aside from following me on Twitter. But thank you guys so much for the opportunity. This was a ball.
Dude, the pleasure was all ours. Pleasure was all ours on our side, man. You were
did I lose you?
Gem. No, well, you've been in and out. You're in and out right at the end there.
For a second. What's better now?
You're good. It might be in
okay,
and out.
Yeah, I'm feeling a bit better.
If you can hear us. All right.
Slight delay, but he's back.
We love you. Get back to packing. If you can hear us, we love you. Thank you for coming through, my man.
I got you.
And appreciate all your time, man.
Absolutely, guys. I think we're back now, and I, again, just want to say thanks so much and best of luck. Hopefully we can do it again sometime. Thank you.
Absolutely, we're gonna have you back.
I might DM you some start sit questions when I'm torturing
Let's go.
So thanks,
dude. Of course.
All right, brother. Thanks for being here. Go follow Joe.
Yes.
Later, brother.
That was good times, man. Listen,
very fun.
Gave us some good shit, good nuggets. Like, and everybody. So we have our draft tomorrow, right? We have a big draft tomorrow. We got a couple next week, and then it's the live bullets start shooting Thursday, man. They're Lions, Chiefs, and you're talking. We're right back into this thing, full swing, man.
All right, I'm just gonna put you right on the spot, Spiro. Yeah. Are you taking Saquon at 4 because he's gonna be there?
Yes.
Now, that's what you said when you were drunk at Topgolf. You said, "I'm
hopefully
Saquon."
Hopefully, nobody else in front of me is listening to this in your draft. I don't think they're going to take Saquon. You can't take Saquon top 3. I don't.
He's not going top 3, even in like these Giants fan drafts. I highly doubt he's going top 3. I bet on him last year and took him at 10 because it was like he hasn't been healthy, new offense, and I just believed. I'm like, I'd rather win with Saquon than whatever, and then watch someone else do it. So
it's just I'm going to probably regret it because I hate, it's like betting on your own team too, right? Like when you lose or God forbid he doesn't do well, it like hurts double bad when it doesn't turn out well. But in this improved offense where they can't stack the boxes anymore because number 13, by the way, Jalen Hyatt is out there.
That's news. 13. How do you feel about that? Can we talk about that?
He's putting a lot of pressure on himself.
It's just like it's going to constantly remind you of OBJ.
I don't necessarily like the move. I gotta be honest with you. But listen, I like the confidence. If he picked that number, he knows the history in New York Giants football history. You know that who wore that jersey before you. That performed well.
Yeah, I mean,
you gotta match that now.
You look at Dallas and what 88 has meant to them. You had Irving, right? You had Michael Irving. You had what's his face who dropped it on the 1 yard line.
Oh, Dez.
No. Yeah, Dez Bryant. And now you got CD Lamb. I mean, CD Lamb had some set of plums taking 88 for the Dallas Cowboys, but he did it and it works. So I mean,
they all pretty much did it.
They all did it. Yeah. By all means, Hyatt can make his own legacy and everything like that. But you're just going to have flashbacks because of what 13 meant in a Giants uniform. And you're so used to that game breaking ability. And
a little bit of it.
But he does have that. And
He has it.
I think Eli on a show was like, guys, I don't even want to say it, but like, there's just like, they just got that.
You can't help it.
You know what it is? It's like that track star quality, right? Like OBJ is a product of 2 track stars. Or at least his mom was at least a collegiate track star. So like, he's got that blood, and Hyatt obviously has that speed. So you just got that. I mean, 13 is a much faster number than 84.
It is. It holds. It's less weight on your numbers, and
everyone knows that.
Yeah, everybody knows that.
Significantly faster.
And I was just talking to Eli about this yesterday. Does changing numbers, is it big for you? Like it is for me, because for me, like the number 46 on Isaiah Simmons didn't seem right, but 19 sounds like it feels better. It feels like he's quicker to the quarterback, or different. Like the Tay Banks change from 36 to 25. It just feels more like a DB there, right? Like
I hate Simmons going to 19. I think 19.
Yeah, you're not a big linebacker 19 guy.
No, and I'm like, a little bit scarred of 19 right now. I couldn't get over it. If he starts playing well, I'll forget real fast. Yes. And Banks took 25, right?
Yeah, 25. Mark Collins
from 36.
Will Allen. Yeah, a long line of Giants cornerbacks. Mark Collins does make I know that really that Galladay PTS, but hopefully he sprinkles some good juju on that number and brings it back to relevance.
Who's Bert Kreischer?
He's a good comedian. Good comedian. Thank you. I appreciate that. Actually, I do ramble. I'm a rambler. I'm a rambling man.
Hold on, I want to see who he's talking about.
You would know him. You would know him if you saw his face. Bert Kreischer.
Oh, or his shirtless performance. I know exactly.
It might be just my overall body.
I know exactly who he is. That's actually not a bad comparison.
I'll take it. I love Bert. He's
a
funny ass dude.
He's actually much bigger than you are, and you're actually like 6'7", and people don't realize that. I do know him now. I know his face, and I've seen his act plenty of times. I even follow him on a couple of platforms. The name just didn't ring a bell, and now you spelt it differently, so I don't even know the right way.
Sorry, your shit's all over the place with your spelling today. All over the place. Get together.
Oh, I think he did it on purpose. I see what he's doing.
You son of a bitch.
One step ahead.
All right.
One step ahead.
Hey,
well, listen.
We had fun though today.
We will be. Listen, can we talk real quick?
Yeah.
Eli Rax, the legend that he is, the DM master.
Oh yeah.
He got Kay Adams for next Tuesday.
It's kind of big, huh?
It's huge. Kay Adams, and we are putting together an absolute just blowout of a show. It's going to be ridiculous. We have 4 absolutely iconic guest spots, and they're all locked up, and we're going to be revealing them as we get closer and closer to the show. But we're doing it first on Instagram, so make sure you're following Instagram New York Revival _, and we're going to be doing it first there. Twitter much later. So if you're on Instagram, go find us there. And let's see, today's Wednesday. Maybe we reveal another guest tomorrow.
Right? Get on that Instagram. Follow if you aren't following already. And you're going to want to be the first to know who our next guest is, because we're just pumping out star after star here. Star after star.
Guys, there are some real stars
I'm so
coming
excited
on the show. It's ridiculous.
Right. What we'll do on another note is we got our draft tomorrow. Let's have the people grade our 2 teams. What do you say? What do you say?
We're going to post. I like that.
And the loser has to shotgun a beer.
Just make it.
And the winner will also do it.
Well, I like that.
No, we'll talk about terms. I don't want to put that on us right now. We're going to talk about what the loser has to do between us two.
Well, it's either a happy beer or a sad beer, but it's a beer nonetheless, right? The one who won it's a celebration shotgun versus you fucking loser. I mean, 49% of votes, you're a loser. So
we're gonna put out both of our teams, and we want you guys to grade it. Who's got the better team?
Somebody asked a cool question real quick, and I want your answer here.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Unfortunately, number 11.
Yeah, you go first.
Number 11 was my sports number. Every sport, even like in high school, if an older classman had it, the second it became available, I took it. No matter what sport, it was always 11. It was my dad's number. Then the whole Phil Simpson. I grew up house number 11. Like 11 was just everywhere. So that would obviously be my pick, but it's not a possibility on the Giants.
It's not.
And it obviously matters a little bit.
Are we talking just okay? He did say on the Giants. That's tough. So what's gonna? I'll go with mine now. I always like doubling up numbers. Like it's weird that you like 11. I was a 22 or 55 guy. 22 or 55. So I envision myself as a 55er, more like a defensive.
Oh, you're such 55. A 50. You're such
a 55.
I'm
a big 55 guy, right? Yeah. Thick.
I think I'd go. I think I go number 3.
Okay,
it can work. It can work for any position.
Sure.
And if I were anything, I'd obviously just be a kicker because I'm a little shit. But I would never survive any other position.
You got a nice leg, though. Got a good leg. You get that.
I used to.
We might need it. We might need another if the Giants win challenge.
I want redemption this year.
Back. I want you to stretch out for at least a week ahead of time.
I need to hit a 40-yard field goal. It's going to happen this year. I'm going to build myself back up to it. I have to. For my own sanity.
And I'm going to be sitting there drinking on the sidelines, cheering you on, and being that number 1 fan of yours.
I would love to have you guys there. I feel like that would really help me.
I'll pump you up. Don't worry. You're going to hit that 40-yarder.
Appreciate it. All right. This was our freaking fantasy show. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Good luck in your fantasy drafts, except Spiro. Spiro got auto drafted last year, and he drafted all Bengals. It was so funny.
I think I missed the 4 rounds. Yeah. Let's not have that again.
No, that won't happen again. Best player available, right? You just do what you got to do. But you still made the playoffs, didn't you?
I did pretty damn good.
You did make the playoffs. I was proud of you for that. All right. Thanks for joining the Revival. Stay tuned. Go follow on Instagram, New York Revival _ so you can be the first to know who our crazy special guests are for Tuesday's show. But we'll see you then on behalf of Eli, Mr. Glass Half Full, and El Jefe. Thanks for checking out the Revival. See you next time.
Eli Rax, El Jefe, Mr. Glass Half Full, the Revival.